Hi, David. Welcome to the conversation. How are ya?
Doing great. How you doing, Kim?
I'm good. It's like deja vu all over again. I just interviewed a guy that looks just like you earlier this week.
It almost just looks like I shaved my beard, and that's the only thing that's changed, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now, are you the evil twin or are you the good twin?
I always like to tell people that I'm the nicer one, but of course, it's coming from me.
All right. Well, hey, I know both of you from Ohio Pharmacists Association, and
Mhm.
I know you by association with your brother, your twin brother, Greg. It's nice to
Yep.
talk to you today. I
Yeah.
wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about some of these Kroger pharmacy jobs that are available in Ohio. But before we get to that, I would love to know, what is your job? Where do you work? What's your role? And how'd you get there? Take it away, David.
Sure. Yeah. So I work within the same building as the College of Pharmacy, the University of Cincinnati College of Pharmacy. Kroger has space in that building, office space. So I sit in front of a computer. What I do is I talk with patients on the phone all day. There is, I feel like we wanted to have closer to a dozen people, and now with changes in people, we're hiring for that very position. So in 8-hour shifts, mostly 9 to 5:30, I'm talking with patients on the phone. Um, I'd say the most often we're reaching out because we're trying to make sure our patients are adherent to their medications, but there are other contracts that we have. A lot of times it's going over the Indian Health Services prime questions related to like a contracted medication. Maybe a manufacturer would prefer to make sure people are also staying adherent or continuing to use their medication. They might want Kroger to help out with that. Um, so that's often the case. There's of course CMRs that we complete, and then you'd be surprised how often in those calls we talk to folks that there are other concerns that come up, and so I address those just kind of as I see appropriate. Um, so of course I really like doing that. It makes me feel pretty smart, being able to solve people's problems, get them the medications and solutions that they're looking for. Um, how did I get that job? Um, I started working for Kroger for about 10 years ago. I was doing just checking prescriptions remotely. They're often hiring for that position too, but I'm not quite so sure about that right now. So, in any case, I was checking prescriptions for a long while, no, meaning that I was pretty familiar with Kroger's system. That is helpful. And they would sprinkle in a little bit of more of those clinical services kinds of positions. And then they decided like they wanted to expand that. So we've been doing this work in the College of Pharmacy and also Columbus. Well, at least at UC, University of Cincinnati, we've been doing that for about 3 years. And then I think we added on Columbus maybe a year and a half ago. Um, yeah, and there are some shifts a little bit later in the day, as late as 11:30 to 8. And right now we have no weekend hours, but they're thinking about, well, should we expand that to maybe like every fifth or 10th weekend to have a little bit of Saturday coverage. So we'll see what happens. Um, so I do like not being in a retail setting. Uh, while I've pretty much mostly worked in retail, that can get pretty stressful. So I like that the focus is not so much about getting the prescriptions out the door. It's really solving people's problems in lots of different ways that I feel like I've developed a lot of good ways to provide that, both with my experience working in a retail setting. I worked for, be better not to name names, but I worked in retail for quite some time, a different grocery store and, big three kinds of positions. Um, when I was kind of transitioning to work at Kroger, I became sorry, my watch started talking. I got a board certification in geriatric pharmacy, and certainly that's helped me out a lot. My coworkers, two of them have gotten board certifications in ambulatory care while working in this position. But that also means the 12 of us or so that have been working there, the nine of them don't have any sort of board certification. So that's not required, but certainly I feel like it often provides me with a good opportunity to know what would be good next steps when people bring up issues. I've been talking a lot now. So
Don't be self-conscious. I think there's going to be a number of people watching this who just want to hear, what do you do? Because the jobs that are advertised right now are for the same job that you do, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so exactly. We're looking to hire on some more people, and I hear my boss, Ashley Johnson, she's interviewing people. Every couple of days I'll overhear some of those parts of the interview. So we've been trying to hire on more folks. Um, and One thing that was interesting that I kind of thought about as she's hiring on these folks, she mentions exactly what I've just talked about, like the primary part of the job. But I think it's some of those little things that I do that I find really appealing. Right now, I'm working with a student to complete their fourth year capstone project, a research project that they have to do that has the potential of being published. We're really doing an antibiotic stewardship analysis of nitrofurantoin. We have students that rotate through 12 hours at a time. Every second year student has to be there for 12 hours. And so that's another part of it that's kind of layered in there. And we also have residents. And so I've been one of there's there had been three of us that were preceptors for the residency students. I was one of those, but actually one of the people that left, she was a residency preceptor. So, a position, someone that could help out with that would certainly be helpful. So yeah,
Very good. Thank you for talking about that. There's a
yeah,
lot of different angles that I want to ask questions from. I want to reiterate, it sounds like you work local to where your home is. They're in Cincinnati, Ohio, right?
that's correct. So yes, one thing that might be helpful to consider is this is a fully in-person job in Cincinnati as well as in Columbus. I don't know where that is located in Columbus because I've never been there, but
Yeah, just
there's
focus on Cincinnati.
yeah. So that's right. I mean, right now it's like a 15-minute drive there to the College of Pharmacy. So yeah, it's local to where I'm at. I've been living in Cincinnati for almost 20 years now, and it is kind of nice to. I feel like I keep on getting jobs that are progressively closer to home. So that's helpful for me right now where it's located. I was commuting all the way to Dayton in the past, so
Yeah, that's a
happy not
little
to be doing
hike,
that. Yeah, yeah,
especially with
exactly.
traffic. Yep. I have a kid, my younger son. I only have one younger son, one older son, one younger son. My
Sure.
younger son goes to the University of Cincinnati, and the traffic is no joke down there. Big cities, lots of traffic. Well,
Yep.
the reason that I asked about where you work was that some people may read the job description for this. They might click the job description and be poking around at it while they're listening to us talk. And for all intents and purposes, it seems like MTM jobs like this kind of seems to be
Hmm.
are sometimes remote. And for you to just verify that, hey, I have to commute to my job and this is not remote, that's important for people to know because some people are only looking for remote work. But
Yeah,
hey, you went to the University of Cincinnati, right?
I did. Yes.
Okay. What I think is kind of cool is that you're from around where I live, the Toledo, Ohio area. You went to
Yes.
Cincinnati, you stayed in Cincinnati, you now work in Cincinnati. I think that's pretty cool. So I just wanted to make sure to bring out your story a little bit there too.
Oh
And
yeah.
then when you go to work, is that the same building that you went to pharmacy school in, or is that an updated building?
Well, yeah. So they have updated the building quite a lot. So that's helpful to point out. There's been a lot of changes even since I went there. Um, so the entire, ugh, like thinking about cardinal directions. If you look at the building on the left, um, that whole part has been updated. So that is the part that we're in. So it is um, not only is that entire part updated and has a whole like glass side to the building now, but there's been lots of other updates as well. So it is kind of nice and familiar to be in that same space, um, to kind of know all the roads and all, to see the same professors. Um, this upcoming week, I'm working with Dr. Carissa Kim on just like a side project. I'll tell you one of the nice things about my work there is they've been really supportive of a lot of different things. In part because of that educational focus, they say, well, that'd be great if you could get involved and help out with the skills lab. And there are many people in my job that do just that. I'm helping out Dr. Carissa Kim with, she does a lot with creating continuing education for the Tri-County Pharmacist Association. And I'm going to record some CE that I presented last just last fall. I also presented the year before that. That's certainly not a requirement, but I did, because I've been interested in that kind of work. Part of my, there is some flexibility as to like, what are your key performance metrics while at Kroger. And so I've used some of that work that I kind of wanted to do anyways to say like, well, why don't I just say that this is part of my job, and make a case for why it would help out Kroger. And of course, my boss is very happy that that helps out our operations and can build that relationship that we have with the College of Pharmacy. So yeah, um, I will mention, since you since you mentioned this is an in-person sort of a position, I think just to clarify why that might be the case, uh, I am working on my seventh pharmacy license in Georgia. I'm
What?
working on a Georgia license, and then so many of us are. One of the expectations is over the course of maybe even I don't know exactly what the time frame is, but because we're trying to reach out to multiple states, and many states will have restrictions as to what can be certified as a pharmacy. That's part of the reason why it is an in-person position. So I hold a license in Arkansas, and I'm the quote, pick for the pharmacy insofar as our operations go in Arkansas. Um, but I also have a license in Nevada and Mississippi. I'm even on a committee to research law updates for Arkansas and Nevada. That's it's kind of wrapped up a little bit more into the prescription checking business. So just because I've been there for 10 years, I think they've got me pulled in a lot of different directions, but they're very respectful of that time commitment. So it's good for me. I think for someone that would be applying to the job, things like that could get layered on if you're interested in it.
Is it
But
required though to get multiple state licenses?
so yes, my understanding is yes, eventually. And in terms of like what that timeline looks like, I don't know what exactly that expectation is, but I'll tell you, having done it before, once you study the federal law for a while and get good with that, then studying each state's laws, once you've really got the federal law down, if you space it out more than a few months or so between them, so I think I'm not sure if the expectation is 4 or 6 or something like that. I'm going on the seventh because that was more of a volunteer thing. So I would admit, I believe in the posting or in the interview, they've discussed somewhere in that 4 to 6 range. Don't quote me on exactly how much that is, but they would want you to get those licenses within the first year, 18 months or so. Again, I'm also not sure exactly on that timeline either. So,
I'm looking at the
yeah, there
job
you go.
requirements. Sorry to interrupt. It doesn't say anything about that, so I don't want to scare anybody. Definitely a point to talk about if you score an interview for this job. It does,
Yeah.
however, say that pharmacy board certification is desired, and I know you've got one of those. 2+ years of MTM experience is desired by Kroger, of
Hmm.
course.
Sure.
Demonstrated leadership and coaching. I think that would come into play with the students, especially in the Cincinnati location.
Yeah.
Speaking of students, students love hearing about what pharmacists actually do in their, day-to-day jobs. So, of all of the pharmacists, the IPPs, the APPs, the residents, whoever you've worked with, what do they say about your job?
What did the students say?
Yeah, do they say, "Oh, this is my dream job. I want to push you out of the way and take your job, David." What do they say?
Um, I've heard that. Yeah. No. So we've had students, and they will say that. We've had a couple of them that said that they would really like to apply to that job. But as you were reading off the recommendations, um, I think it's I think it's hard for a student to really think about the workflow processes and barriers to getting people medications unless you worked extensively in a store setting, like an in-person setting. And so I believe in many cases, they're often would be pretty choosy about someone that was a brand new graduate. Maybe there's a student out there that has been working in a retail setting and is very good about resolving problems for students or for patients. And so therefore, that might be something where they would consider a new grad. Um, but um, yeah, I would imagine it would be more difficult for someone that's been working in a hospital setting and is very comfortable with more of that clinical side of things than to make that transition for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, just kind of there is a lot of just resolving patients' everyday issues with getting their medications filled that occurs and takes up a decent amount of time. So, I
What I hear
it's
you
nice.
saying is that some students are really excited about the position, but as somebody who's done the job, you think maybe it would be best for them to get that experience, right? Would that be fair?
That that's fair. Thank
O-
you, Kim.
Okay, no problem. I got to jump in there. I've known you for so long. I can interrupt my friend, right? Back to the
Fine.
qualifications. I was looking at some of the qualifications, and I love that they say that the BS farms are welcome to apply,
Oh
but
yeah,
also the PharmDs. I'm a BS farm. We got value, just saying. Do you
I
work with any
agree.
BS farms?
Oh yeah, yeah. So actually, I'll yes. So um, Anne, a good friend of mine, Ann Mormon. You might know Ann Mormon. Ann, I believe, is a BS farm, and she worked with me to present that continuing education that I did kind of as a optional side project. And so I brought her into that. I'll say that most of my work is kind of like you, Kim, in that I communicate with people and try to make connections and things like that. Certainly, there's a lot of differences, but the only way that you're going to influence outcomes with patients is with your voice. So that is what I do all the time. Because I'm not in front of any medications or things like that. So yeah, the BS pharmacists I think are very good at that kind of thing because there are lots of non-pharmacological recommendations and OTC considerations and things like that. So I think if someone who's been working in retail for a while says, "Well, I do MTM services all the time. I've got all these things I'm supposed to do, and maybe it doesn't happen often, but you're doing that." I think a person like that should feel comfortable applying to the position because you don't have to know lots of exciting clinical things. We just like any retail setting, you don't have lab values or something like that, or have to consider lots of technical aspects.
No problem. I appreciate you talking about that and then name dropping Anne. I know Anne. She's like a
Yeah,
cheerleader for pharmacists. I love her.
I
And
agree.
yeah, I have not witnessed her interacting with patients, but I can only imagine she's just as enthusiastic about helping people with their medication related problems as she is encouraging pharmacists to go out there and do good things and make good choices.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, that
It's
that
awesome.
counts for a lot to be kind of enthusiastic and welcoming to the whoever it is that you're talking with on the phone.
Yep, she loves the profession. So she's one of those good BS farms. All
Mhm.
right. Well, that's a great requirement. Of course, you have to have your PharmD or your BS farm. You have to be licensed in Ohio with a license in good standing, I see.
Mhm.
And it does actually say, okay, so on the qualifications, not in the desired section, but in the qualifications, must be willing and able to obtain additional non-resident licensures as assigned. So there you go. I just found that.
Mhm.
And then it says ASHP accredited residency or 2 or more years of relevant pharmacy experience. The last time you had somebody join your team, do you remember what their experience was like?
Um, Most of the people that have joined the team, they have worked for Kroger previously. Um, and we did have a relatively new grad who had just finished up their residency. He joined the team. That was about 2 years ago. So yeah, I'd say most of them are retail pharmacists that are looking to do something a little bit different. So that's great because I feel like most pharmacists are retail pharmacists.
I think that is the majority. I think if you
Yeah.
looked at the statistics, most pharmacists, licensed pharmacists, are retail pharmacists. And you
Mhm.
already hit on the communication skills being important. There are so many different points of all of the different responsibilities. I'm just going to hold this up really quick. You can see this online. I'll put a link
I'm,
in the
s- yeah.
I'll put a link in the I guess it'd be the YouTube comments at this point and on LinkedIn. So if you
Mhm.
want to apply for the Cincinnati job, you can go ahead. I know it's unfair of me to talk about the Columbus job because you're not in Columbus. You don't travel to Columbus to do this job, so I totally get it. But if you are a pharmacist who's interested in a job such as David's here, then apply on the Kroger website.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We're hiring technicians and pharmacists in Columbus that do similar work. We're also hiring interns in Cincinnati.
Do you have technicians at your workplace in your location?
Yes, and so I'll clarify that the technicians have some on-site time, but it's kind of more of a hybrid position where, at least for the technicians, they're often able to work from home. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay. They might like hearing that.
yeah,
Not many pharmacy tech jobs from home. I'm just guessing.
yeah, I agree. So,
Awesome. And how is the compensation, the vacation, the medical, all that? Sometimes people need reassurance that it's a good paying job as well.
yeah, so
You don't have to disclose the specifics.
sure. My my understanding is this position is competitive versus retail positions. When talking with other people, I am occasionally making more than retail pharmacists. I'm occasionally making less. Um, I think some folks will know that a lot that those positions will fluctuate sometimes based off of store volume and the like. Um, but I think it'd be reasonable to say in that like 100,000 up to 130,000 range is kind of that typical sort of thing that I think people will see. I'm sure that's somewhat based off of previous wages and things of that sort. Um, I've been with Kroger for 10 years now, and so they've added on another week of my vacation. How much is typical? Geez, um, I believe what it is it ends up being around 3 weeks of vacation is what you might start with. Kroger does have the option that you can buy additional vacation weeks. I think it's just one. So if you would prefer to get paid less and have more vacation time, then essentially you're just buying out your hours up to one full additional week. Um, Benefits, they match 401k contributions. I forget if it's up 4 or 5% of wages. Um,
Do you ever
I don't
have
know.
any trouble scheduling your vacation? I know when I used to work for one
Mm,
of the big retail chains, we would have to submit our vacation in October the previous year. And even though I would, sorry, I'm laughing because it just seems so outrageous, but we would request for a vacation in August and it would be denied all the way in the previous October. I don't know who had the scheduling crystal ball that they thought that they would not have enough coverage in August for a
mhm.
part-timer. I was a part-timer. Anyways, that it's kind of laughable, but has that ever happened to you in your current position?
No. So yeah, I'd say it's a lot more flexible just because I would say because Kroger as a whole, they'll say like, if you know your vacation, please let us know in October so you could start submitting it at that point. But what it's really been nice is a lot of times I'll submit a request for vacation, in August, and I'll just leave it there as a placeholder. So with it being a smaller team and there not being like a production quality to it, that we're not trying to get prescriptions out the door. Yeah, that affords a lot more flexibility to the time you can take off. Um, I don't feel bad about taking time off. If it happens just all of a sudden, if I'm sick or whatever it might be, it's not like they need to backfill. So that is a huge relief. It's a lot different than your typical pharmacy position. So yeah, that's certainly a nice bonus.
You can't put a price on some of these things that you're talking about. 15-minute commute, working with other pharmacists in kind of an academic setting, even though it's not
Yeah,
attached really
mhm,
necessarily to the, work of the university. I think it's a really unique opportunity, 9 to 5, Monday through
yeah,
Friday, no weekends, no holidays, 2 to 3 weeks of vacation, a team, flexibility with scheduling the vacation, uh, occasionally working on special projects with the university,
yeah,
helping with residents and IPI students and API students. I mean, this sounds like a really good opportunity. And of course, helping people with their medication therapy management issues, being a problem solver. You and your brother both have that in common. You have
yeah.
both mentioned that you enjoy solving problems. So
Oh,
this
yeah.
might be the type of job that if you are a pharmacist who enjoys solving problems, apply today. What else would you like to talk about with this position or your job in general? What would you like my audience to know about you and your staff pharmacist job there at Kroger?
I think the thing that's maybe the most striking is how much um, the way you'd like things to be, the way you'd like a boss and higher ups to be telling you, just, yeah, just do things the way we said to do it. You're supposed to get your 15-minute breaks, take your breaks, take them whenever you need them. You're supposed to be able to get your lunch, just take that. How often I'm so happy to hear that my boss's response, Ashley, is that sounds like a neat idea. And you've made a good case how that could help us out. You should go do it. And to hear that so consistently is it's kind of heartwarming to say like, oh, like you just want me to do the things that would be right for the patient and also, maybe also not take forever. I've gotten feedback about that. Like, hey, let's help, but help in a way that people want to hear and is respectful of their time. I feel like I sometimes want to solve people's problems a little bit too much, but um, it's really great to have the resources available. And that's I guess one part that we got from um, working under the umbrella of Kroger's corporate structure. We're not beholden to a particular division and that division's budgetary concerns. It's more of a budgetary concerns of Kroger on whole. So yeah, that offers a lot of flexibility to really to have possibilities to innovate um, and help people more.
Yeah, I can feel the encouragement eking out of you as you're talking about this. Like you're being encouraged to practice towards the top of your license and
Mhm.
initiate things. I think sometimes
Yes.
people are told in a retail environment typically that you are this round peg and you fit in this round hole and you do what you are told. And I think a lot of people forget how to dream and they forget how to, initiate things. And I don't hear that.
Yeah.
Your dreams have not been squashed, and I appreciate hearing that.
Yep.
Uh, Real quick, what's your favorite thing about working for Kroger in the role that you have right now?
Uh, geez. I think it's work with students that allows me to try to do things that I feel like you can work with students a lot of times, and there doesn't have to be a financial incentive for providing that better care. So yeah, that happens a decent amount of the time, but I don't feel particularly discouraged about either small things or large things that would not necessarily benefit Kroger on the whole, but is going to be the best course of action for patients.
I like that you like helping the students. There are some people that would just rather just keep their head down and do their jobs, but I feel like you want to do that plus you want to do this other thing. You want to help the students. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be because you're a dad too. I don't know. Maybe you're helping the next generation.
You'd be surprised as I'm learning about how to teach students. I'm kind of doing it at the same time. I'm learning how to teach my daughter how to sound out words and letters and things like that. And there's some parallels to talking with patients as well. I mean, there's parallels and there's differences, but I feel like my best preceptors when I was a pharmacy student were those preceptors that really were able to kind of almost demonstrate, hey, we're going to use motivational interviewing to teach you as a student to get better, and we're also going to use motivational interviewing with our patients and it's surprising how often I kind of feel like doing that that I'm doing that with my two kids.
That's nice when skills transfer. I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And when it comes to serving your patients, what's your favorite kind of patient interaction? Like, what's a powerful story of when you help somebody at your job?
I'm a board certified geriatric pharmacist, and I've had that for about 10 years. And so I feel like the scenarios that are most impactful is when I'm talking with an older person, they maybe had just gotten admitted to the hospital, now discharged, and and you start talking to them and say, well, what got you in there? And they say, oh, I fell. Okay. And so, you know that someone that had a fall is more likely to, one, die, and then two, maybe be readmitted. And I ask them about, I'll start seeing their medication list and looking at the risky medications that they're taking, and to be able to engage them right away on, well, tell me a little bit about all of this, and then kind of give them a list of ideas of, these are some things that you might want to talk about with your doctor. Um, I find those patients often, and then I also even have my other coworkers come over to me and ask me, this patient was starting to have some more issues with their bladder or something like that. And I'm like, oh, well, actually, I know a lot about that, so I'm really happy you asked. Um, so yeah, I mean, in this case, I was thinking about a specific patient that was discharged with a fall, but there's other similar scenarios that come up as well.
Yeah, it sounds like you were able to bring things to their attention that might make them, well, might have been the cause for the fall in the first place, but might make a difference moving forward to prevent that second fall.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Again, problem solving, David. Problem solving.
there I am. Hmm.
It's good stuff. All right. And then is there any challenge, any particular challenge about your job that you would like to talk about so that anybody watching this might say, oh, I hadn't thought of that?
Um, yeah, I would say the most frequent thing. I think you get used to it. We're reaching out to patients in most of our outreach, and I think the first step is getting them to understand that we are part of their local Kroger pharmacy, and then also getting them to consider that I don't have an agenda to get them to fill their prescription. So a lot of times people want to tell me about how they're trying to be more adherent, and I feel like I'm more so trying to tell them, I want you to have whatever tools you need to improve your health, and maybe it means not taking this medication. So I'm often asking people, tell me a little bit more about um, how you feel your lisinopril is treating you. And then if we discover together that actually things are not going well, then I might recommend they talk to their doctor about that, rather than saying, well, I guess I just have to deal with all the terrible side effects.
It
So
sounds to me like you're pretty good at figuring out what the problem really is, not just getting somebody to regurgitate what they think the answer should be. Is that kind of what I'm hearing you say?
yeah, it's yeah, that's it. It's um, I think people historically put pharmacists in a very small box of, this is what they do, and I'm often making sure I frame my communication to patients to let them know that the box they should be considering is much larger in terms of things I can help them out with. And so, yes, I mean, I think the first step is just convincing people that actually your local pharmacy has a really large box of ideas and ways we can help out. And it's not just, when you walk in the door, there's the pharmacy team in front of you that you can see. So,
I like that you're representing that cognitive services piece because a lot of people do think that we're just there to, what was it? Count, pour, lick, and stick. Did they ever use that phrase when you were going to school?
oh yeah, they definitely did. Yeah,
It was the stereotype, wasn't it? Count, pour, lick,
yeah,
and stick. That's what people thought we did. But the more that you get out there in front of people, whether you're on the phone or, in person, and let them know that we can do things other than just the count, pour, lick, and stick, I think it represents the pharmacy profession well.
Yeah,
Now, as we wrap this up, I know I've probably kept you longer than I said I would, but this has been a
it's
good
okay.
conversation. I
Thanks.
hardly ever get to hear, the in-depth details of what you do. So this has been great for me. If you were to say just one last thing, maybe something that you've forgotten to talk about your job, that's maybe somebody out there considering your applying for your job needs to know, what would that one thing be? I love the facial expressions too, David.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about so much already, so I'm trying to think, well, geez, what else is there to say? Um, hmm. Um, there's free parking. The parking lot's covered.
Nice. Do you park in that parking garage that's right next to the pharmacy building?
That's correct. So yeah, yeah, I've got a permanent parking pass and things like that. So that's really good. Um, I suppose a nice perk is that we've got access to the entire pharmacy building. So if you wanted to just go exercise on your breaks and like walk the stairs, I know a few of us do that on a regular basis. So it's good to be able to perhaps have a chance to decompress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's so many things that you could say, but
Mhm.
you've said a lot. And thank you so much for joining the conversation here today. Take
Yeah.
care, David. Bye bye.
Great. Thanks. Bye.